Now, if you want to quantify political success in Nigeria, just take a look at the People's Democratic Party, or PDP. The numbers point to the party as one of the most successful political organizations since civilian rule in 1999. For 16 years, the PDP was in firm control of the most politically and economically significant nation in sub-Saharan Africa. But then in 2015, it all went bust when the party was ousted from power. Since then, it's been plagued by defections that have withered its representation in the National Assembly and the number of states it has in its fold. And of course, it lost the second presidential election in a row in 2019. So which way now for the PDP as the 2023 general elections approach? Well, for more, I'm joined now in the studio by the indefatigable spokesman of the People's Democratic Party, Kola Ologbondiyan. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure you must have heard a lot of all the stuff about defections and, you know, the body blows that the PDP is going through at the moment. I'm afraid I'm not going to make it easier, because I am going to start off by talking about all those defections, governors, senators, etc. That's bound to hurt as you watch people, you know, from your party that you helped into office turn around and desert you. I mean, how much of a body blow is that for the PDP?
Well, thank you very much, Charles, and thank you for bringing me on the Arise interview. Well, I must confess to you that, yes, we agree that we have lost members in our party. 3 governors have done a walkaway, and we also have a situation where some senators have also decamped. Well, let me say from the beginning that those who left the party left for their pecuniary interests, not because there's any problem within the party. And I want that established first and foremost. And those who left the parliament also left because of the peculiarities of their own local environment. And as you know, every politics is local. So people left because, they were elected into the People's Democratic Party for maybe a term or 2 terms, and coming to 2023, the configuration of their own constituency might not permit them a return, and perhaps in their party they might not have a chance. So it is possible on account of that they could leave. There are also those who left, like the people who left in Zamfara State, who left on the grounds of sympathetic defection. And I call it sympathetic defection because their governor, whom they followed into the party, was leaving.
Right.
He was leaving, perhaps not out of his own volition, but because out of coercion from the sitting government. He made appeal to them and said, please, since we came together, come, let's go together. So we have such possibilities. But what we need to establish as a political party is the fact that those who are leaving are not leaving because there's a crisis in within, but they are living in their own pecuniary interest.
Right, but I mean, when these sorts of things happen, I mean, it's been described as a wave of defections, a gale of defections, that sort of thing. I mean, that suggests, you know, quite a lot of people have left the party. I mean, the point really is, do you guys do a post-mortem? Because you're speculating about why they left. Do you do a post-mortem to understand why and to try and prevent it happening again?
Just in the political environment, certainly, when a politician starts speaking about, when politicians begin to complain about certain things that are needless, if you understand politics very well, you begin to have a suspicion. This person is about to go in. So when such happen, the responsibility of the party, and I mean the leadership of the party, in this circumstance in the People's Democratic Party, the National Working Committee, is to go into the issue, to also mobilize the various organs, individuals, and eminent personalities that can help speak with such individual to reconsider his position and have a review of the action that he or she intends to take. But when they finally take that decision, which is theirs in the first place,
absolutely,
except in respect of people in the parliament, and in this wise, I mean people in the National Assembly who are constrained from leaving, except where there is a division within the party. And division in this term means that the entire structure of the party, from the national to the state to the local government to the ward, must be divided in a manner that you could see that there's no more cohesion in the party. The Constitution provides that, except on that, guys, you cannot leave your political party and cross to the other side.
But they've left, though.
That's why we are going to court. We'll get there. I believe we'll get there in your questioning. So now, those who have, so in that circumstance, they leave, but they know that they have no right, within the purview of our laws, to leave the party that got them elected into the National Assembly and cross over to the other party. But as regards whether we do post-mortem, we do post-mortem. For instance, that is why when in Cross River, Ben Ayade left, we quickly dissolved the structure of the party in the state in order to enable those who brought Ben Ayade into office to take over their structure. And in this circumstance, you will remember that the former governor of Cross River, Donald Duke, returned immediately. The former governor, Lieli Moke, remained in the party. Senator Gerson Bassi, also still in the party. They came together because it was because of their being that Ayade was able to become governor. So another emphatic point that we must take away from here is the fact that when a governor leaves the party, it doesn't necessarily mean that the crowd that brought him to power has left with him. And it is that people, it's those people.
Well, you hope that they haven't left.
No,
because we know that the governors have very strong political machines in their states.
I agree with you that they are very strong political machines. And I concede completely that they are strong political machines. But how did PDP defeat a sitting governor who was looking for a second term in Bauchi State? It was the people. Because the power truly belongs to the people. It was the people.
Well, it should.
It was the people who made that to happen. How did PDP defeated Bindo in Adamawa State? It was the people who were determined and said, "Look, we have had enough of you. You have to go." So we believe in the People's Democratic Party that when a governor leaves office, except it is done in a manner that it can be clearly shown that the party structure stood against him and perhaps impugned on his administration, and on account of that, in anger, he's leaving, there's a tendency for believers, supporters of the party to work with him out of the party. But in a situation where a governor, considering his own pecuniary interests, chose to leave the party, human beings are the ones constituting the party. They are not machines. They can think and they can come to decisions. So that is why when they leave, we also allow the owners, the co-owners of the structure, like it happened in Ebonyi. We have Senator Pius Sahin, we have the former governor Igu, we have former Senator Agboti. All of them are still in the, even as we speak today, they are still in the party and they are running the structure of the party.
But isn't the PDP simply caught up in its own inability to come up with a cohesive plan to win over political support as the 2023 elections approach? And the reason I say that is that, I mean, by taking people to court, I mean, obviously, yes, there's the letter of the law and that sort of thing which you know, ostensibly want to stick to. But when you take people to court, don't you think it could potentially backfire? That you look like you're desperate to hold on to people, to force people to remain within your fold when they clearly don't want to remain? No.
I don't agree with that. I will not agree because the 1999 Constitution as amended provides that you cannot leave, that's as it concerns the National Assembly, understandably, for those who are watching out of the country, the Parliament. The Constitution, the 1999 Constitution, provides that you cannot leave the party on which platform you were elected into the Parliament, except where there is division arising from crisis in your party. And division, like I earlier explained in this circumstance, has to do with the national body of the party, with the state body of the party, with the local government, with the what? Such to an extent that it became factionalized in a manner that each group are now holding different offices.
Yeah, but isn't it better to let those people go? Because if you force them to remain in the party, it could become detrimental to you. I mean, they could become, you know, cancer within the system, and also they will probably still vote against whatever you propose in Parliament.
Well, Charles, if you look at it, we have a constitution, the Nigerian constitution, which they held in their hands on the day they were sworn in, and prayed that they were going to uphold that constitution. If they are on their own as lawmakers, now proceed to defile that constitution as a political party that is democratic in nature.
Right.
There is no way we will look on the other side.
I think you have a point.
Yes, we want to test the law. The circumstance that you are talking about can affect only the governors.
Right.
In the circumstance that it is not clearly stated in the Nigerian 1999 constitution that when they defect, they should leave office. It's not that clearly stated.
And obviously you also want to set a precedent.
So for us, yes. Yeah. So for us, we believe in the People's Democratic Party. That, look, in the country today, we are the only democratic party in Nigeria. What is wrong with subjecting even that model to a judicial test? Let us go to court and ask the Supreme Court, is it okay that a governor is elected on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, and that you, the Supreme Court, gave us this victory, and part of your judgment read that the All Progressives Congress was never in this election. So now our own governor, which you gave to us, Supreme Court, have now chosen to abandon your judgment and have taken the flip side to the other side. Now, we want you to look at the rule and at the laws, whether it is a normal thing that should be accepted in our democratic setting in Nigeria. So we do not see anything as a party that is wrong with testing that law. Because, look, Charles, let me tell you, a lot of things are going on in our country. And the way in which we are proceeding in our nation, if you do not subject some of these things into a judicial process, a legalistic test, you will discover that before you know it, democracy will be gone, and it will become permanently. And that's the truth.
You have a point, but it's a difficult one, isn't it? It's a difficult balancing act. But let's take a break, and please stay with us because we want to talk with you some more. You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our chat with the spokesman of the opposition People's Democratic Party here in Nigeria, Kola Ologbondiyan. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Now, my first guest today, Kola Ologbondiyan, is the National Publicity Secretary for the opposition People's Democratic Party in Nigeria. He is, in effect, the party's national spokesman or mouthpiece. Well, there's more to him than that. He's also a well-heeled journalist who worked with This Day newspaper, first as a reporter covering beats such as the presidency, National Assembly, state government houses, and political parties. He subsequently rose through the ranks to become its group political editor and then deputy editor of the daily title. Until 2015, Mr. Olobondiyan was the special advisor on media and publicity to the former Senate President David Mark. And Mr. Olobondiyan was elected to the position of National Publicity Secretary of the PDP in 2017 at the National Convention of the party in Abuja. And Kola Ologbondiyan, spokesman of the opposition PDP, is still with me in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for staying with us. Quite a CV you've got there. I want to come to that in a minute, but let's get the political bit out of the way briefly so that we can get to talk about the other exciting part of this interview, which is you. At one stage in this country, Kola, indeed for a period of 16 years, the PDP was riding the crest of strong political and public support. Everybody wanted to be in the PDP. Everybody wanted to be associated with the PDP. The candidates stood on the platform of a formidable political machine. What do you think has happened? I mean, you won every national election from 1999 until you lost in 2015, and now it's like a, domino effect.
Well, I remember very well that after the 2011 election, a prominent Nigerian, whose name I would not love to mention, told me that Kola Assessor, he said, no matter what we do in 2015, we are not going to win. I was shocked, and I asked him why. He said, the human nature get tired of saying the same thing over and over and over. And they possibly want to see a different thing. He said, after being in office for so and so period, there's every likelihood we might not be able to win the next election. That was a conjecture. But I believe that what actually went wrong, which I think Nigerians largely, or let's say majority of Nigerians today, are expressing regrets about, is that, yes, PDP was there. PDP was building institutions for democracy. PDP was doing its own best at that time, because some of the challenges that are manifest today, they had a way of, walking over them, and they were not malignantly out there. You understand? But the people, like I said in the beginning, just got tired. They got fed up. They felt that, oh, there could be another group of people that can improve on what we are presently.
There was fatigue, basically.
They were fatigued. So
and do you think that same fatigue is going to affect the APC? I mean, that's an obvious question, because I know what your answer is going to be.
It has set in already.
Right.
The situation in the country today is even worse than the 2015. Because in 2015, the people were not despondent. Today, the people have become despondent. And I believe that unlike the People's Democratic Party, that had the privilege of going into power for 16 years, I can prophesy into the future that no party, with the level of awareness in our country today, no party will enjoy that kind of a privilege in the country. Because the generation that is coming behind, they are in a hurry. I have a 20-year-old son who told me, Daddy, what are you people doing there? Give us a president that is 25 years old and let him see. You see the kind of wonder he will perform. I said, 25 years? What does he know?
Well, actually, that's the history of Nigeria, isn't it?
He said that, have you tested us? Yeah, have you tested that generation? Test them and see the wonder.
But that's the history, isn't it? I mean, that's where Nigeria came from. If you look at the 1960s, the 1970s,
I agree with you.
They're all very young, 20s and 30s.
Even people like Rotimi Amechi, at what year did he become a Speaker of the House of Assembly? And that is why today in the People's Democratic Party, we have taken a decision to devolve powers to the youth. And this will have, in the last election, we had to slash our House of Assembly nomination fee. We have to slash the House of Representatives nomination fee in order to encourage the inclusion of the youth. And that's the direction that the People's Democratic Party is going.
Right. Okay. Well, let's get to talk a little bit about yourself, because I mean, you are quite almost as interesting as the party that you represent. I mean, you started off as a correspondent, as a reporter.
I started off in this day in 1995 as a proofreader.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Which was considered the lowest rung of journalism.
So you literally worked your way up.
I worked my way, and from there I did production, because the chairman pulled us out of proof desk. I said, "Oh, you guys, what are you doing here? Go and start producing the pages." So I produced the political page, I produced the international page, and I also produced the features page. And from there, the chairman walked into the newsroom one day. So, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm producing pages." "Are you not tired? Don't you want to report?" And I said,
sounds familiar, actually, because I've heard him say that to a couple of people.
Chairman, I would love to report.
Around the place.
Today I'll make you a reporter. Now go to the crime beat. And I went to the crime beat, and well, I was a greenhorn, so to say. And when the Alozie Gugujagba or somebody was talking to us off the record, I didn't know. I went to the office and broke the story. And this was Abacha's time. And it had a grave implication. So I was moved from that beat and taken turn. So it's been on. I can clearly say that my life is similar with the growth of this day newspaper.
But then, of course, you went beyond being just a reporter. I mean, not just, because reporting is very important. It's the meat and potatoes, really, of the newspaper and journalism business. But you went from that to become a group political editor.
Yes.
I mean, that's quite a significant move up, and you had to work your way. I mean, you had to kind of, nudge people out of the way.
I did. Let me say God did, because I looked like chairman was raising me for a purpose. That's in the later age. That's my dream. because he sent me to Akwa Ibom as a correspondent. And Victor Ifiji, now the MD of the nation, insisted that I must go. And I went. I produced pages for people like Ezekiel Ubani when he was writing the back page. I produced pages for people like Waziri Adio when he was writing pages. I produced pages for NEB. So I had gone through experiences talking about the politics of Nigeria. And I must also confess to you that my uncle that raised me was a politician, a prominent politician in my local community, in the Unity Party of Nigeria.
But was politics at the back of your mind when you were in journalism? Did you see yourself ending up where you are?
I wanted to do Mayor Akinpelu, Faj, and all that. They were the kingpin in the social reporting. You understand? Arts and review and all that. So that was where my mind went to. But I don't know what Nduka saw in me. And it changed the course, brought me to the political desk. And because of my political background, I'm a concern in the family where I was grown. Because of that, I was able to go into the political.
You had a bit of access.
So then I got deployed to the villa when President Obasanjo was president. And from there, I was brought to the National Assembly. So after my 4-year, a whole term in the National Assembly as a political editor of the Senate, I was transferred back to Lagos to become the group political editor. And from there, I came to Abuja. You know, one thing that the chairman allows, and when I say chairman, I'm talking about Nduka Baigbena, he liberalizes you. He allows you to bring the best out of yourself.
We've got 20 seconds. How did you end up as the National Secretary?
National
Publicity Secretary of the PDP?
Well, I contested as of Rep election 2011 and I lost, and I returned back as Special Advisor, Media and Publicity to Senate President Senator David Mark. And thereafter, when we were thrown out of office, I felt that I could do this job.
And so you went for it.
And I went for it.
And you got it.
Yes.
And you're doing it.
Thank you very much.
And in a good way.
Thank you very much.
Kola, thank you so much for sharing that part of your
much,
fascinating life with us.
Much,
Kola Ologbondiyan is the National Publicity Secretary for the People's Democratic Party.